When my father said to my mother that the ship was alleged to be unsinkable, her reply to that was, well, that is flying in the face of God.
So this is the ship they say is unsinkable.
It is unsinkable. God himself could not sink this ship.
The actual story of the Titanic, what happened in 1912, how the disaster came to be, just became endlessly fascinating to me. You couldn't have written it better. It's like a great novel. It's like a great novel that really happened.
It's 1912. The Titanic is the largest moving object ever built by man. This is her maiden voyage. The celebrated captain is planning to retire after completing the journey. Among the passengers are some of the wealthiest people in the world and some of the poorest. Hopeful immigrants in search of a new life. The ship steams across the North Atlantic at nearly top speed. An iceberg sits directly in her path. The collision mortally wounds the ship. There are only enough lifeboats for half the people on board. 1,500 souls are lost. The world is shocked. The confidence of an age is shattered.
What is man's relationship to God in a situation where God appears to have forsaken him utterly? You know? Some of them were protected by their faith. Some of them felt abandoned, that there was no sense to the universe. I think it's a really interesting opportunity to just analyze human reaction in a situation that ultimately becomes one of almost certain death.
I remember going to the cemetery in Halifax after filming all night, and they all have the same date, April 15, 1912. There was a tombstone there to a young officer, and the inscription read, "Each man stood his post while the weaker ones went by and showed again to all the world how Englishmen should die." It's just so evocative of nobility. And
these are for you, Mr. Guggenheim. Well, thank you. We are dressed in our best and are prepared to go down as gentlemen.
When the Titanic went down, those left on her decks were plunged into the freezing 28-degree water. Most of them did not drown. They froze to death. Fifth Officer Lowe reported that there were so many bodies floating on the surface that he could not row through them. Among the dead were Isidore and Ida Strauss.
Get into the boat. No!
Mrs. Strauss refused the refuge of the lifeboats to meet her fate with her husband. John Jacob Astor. His badly crushed body was recovered a week later by a passing ship. Benjamin Guggenheim.
These are for you, Mr. Guggenheim. Well, thank you. We have dressed in our best and are prepared to go down as gentlemen.
He maintained his dignity to the very end. Thomas Andrews. He was last seen in a state of shock as the ship he designed sank underneath him. And Titanic's band. They played on until the final moments. None of them survived.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight.
1,502 people were lost. Many of the survivors suffered losses that would affect them for the rest of their lives.
And seeing all this man-made beauty just disappear brings to the fore the question of how such a disaster could happen. Why did God let the Titanic sink? And the answer was, God didn't build the Titanic. Man did. As the cherub weeps.
My father, he put my mother and I into a lifeboat. And he stood back and he helped other people into the boat. I didn't make any attempt to get in himself at all. He never even tried. This boat was lowered away with me beginning to scream because I realized my father was not with me.
The last thing that my father said to me, it seems more dangerous for you to get onto that boat than to stay here with me. But after that, he lost his life, and we continued to live.
It was going down a little, just slowly, not fast at all. And the night was dark, no moon, a very dark black night. And that boat was just beautiful. All the lights in the boat were on. It's just a beautiful sight. But it was going down quietly, and the lights were going under the water as it went down. And I remember that very plainly. Yes, that was a beautiful sight and a terrible sight because we could see that the boat was going under the water.
I was petrified and I couldn't take my eyes off it. And I really mean that.
But the great Titanic was then a broken ship. So it was a terrible moment for everybody to face.
We couldn't help anybody. We had 65 or 70 in our boat. We couldn't help any, and it was standing room only. And we couldn't take another soul in our boat, so we rowed away as fast as we could.